Wow. Wow is all I have to say because, folks, Washington upsets Oregon the second time in one season to win the final Pac-12 championship. Folks, before we get into talking about it, two things. First of all, be sure to leave a like and subscribe because we have just started the brand new college football channel and we are on the path to 1,000 subscribers. So be sure to do that. And secondly, I need to issue a formal and heartfelt apology to the Washington Huskies because not only did I predict Oregon to win this game, I actually predicted them to cover and actually blow you guys out. And obviously, I look kind of stupid now, but that is the polar opposite of what happened. So with that said, let's talk about why that happened. And to be honest with you, I did not watch the second half of this game because I had a college exam to take, which I know lame, sucks, whatever, but I did see the first half. And I really think the first half actually tells that story because essentially for all of you who watched the game, you know exactly what happened. Washington came out the gate flying, playing with their hair on fire like a racehorse out the gate. They jump on Oregon 20-3 toward the end of the second quarter. Washington on the Michael Penix obviously balling out. Heisman conversation there, right? It's probably going to go to Jaden Daniels now, but hey, interesting conversation to be had there. And on the flip side, Oregon starts completely flat, and the story tells itself 20-10 at halftime. Oregon did try to come back, but Washington didn't stop playing. And long story short, the deficit was ultimately too much. And that more or less, again, I didn't see the whole second half, but that more or less seems to be the story of this game. With that said, I think this actually highlights a big point in why I thought Washington would lose this game and why I was proven so hideously wrong. Because you go back to my prediction, a big reason why I, fully expected Oregon to dominate in this game was when you looked at Washington through all of November, they were lacking one key concept and word, which I would say is intensity. Eking by all of their games, they were winning, but you looked at virtually every single Washington game and said, well, they won and props to them, but they should have won by more. Right? Either they started flat a lot or they finished flat or whatever it was. There just seemed to be something missing from the Washington team. And I would call that intensity, right? Getting up for the game, coming out fast, finishing hard, just the whole package. And I think that's sort of an intangible quality when it comes to a football game, right? One team can be totally better on paper, but it's also a matter, like I said, of who gets off the blocks first, if you're going to compare it to a track race, or which racehorse comes out flying, out that track. And in this game, that absolutely was Washington. And I definitely saw from the first play, or I guess the first few plays, Washington came out and played with that very intensity that I thought they were lacking for all of November, which I guess does show to some degree they have it, right? They can, as they did, I guess, the first time around as well, they can absolutely get up for that big game, I should say. And look, you look at them going into the playoffs. I mean, I don't know how well they match up with, say, a Michigan or a Georgia or someone like that. But I will say this. If they come out with big game Washington and not small game Washington, then I think they have a much better shot than maybe people thought, throughout the month of November when you saw them sort of meandering through their games. And if Michael Penix plays like that, puncher's chance, maybe. We'll talk about that when the actual matchups come through. Let's flip the script, though, to Oregon. Because, I did talk about the team who won this game first, so you guys are welcome, because they deserve all the credit for winning this game. 100%. However, if you are Oregon, this does remind me a lot, actually, of the USC-Utah series last year. It's almost the same exact story, right? USC, think back to 2022, comes in undefeated in an October game, a tough environment on the road against Utah. They lose a very narrow upset. And then what's the narrative afterwards? It's like, if you're a USC fan, right? Well, that sucked. But as long as we take care of business, and they did, they got to the Pac-12 championship game. We got them this time, right? We are the quote unquote better team. And then what happens? The quote unquote worst team upsets you a second time and, there's nothing to be said then, they absolutely have your number. Okay. So that's what I have to say about Oregon. And, the fact that, again, they just started completely flat, from everything I can see. Again, I did not physically see the second half, but everything I can see, second half, they woke up a little bit. I felt like they were waking up when they, scored that really fast touchdown at the end of the first half. But this does have to raise a conversation about Dan Lanning and his Oregon Ducks program. And don't get me wrong, okay, I'm not saying fire the guy or he's a bad coach. Obviously, he's a very good coach, and no one would dispute that. However, there does seem to be a pattern now, dating back even to last season, where it's like the reverse of Washington, right? Washington can't get up for the small games, but they can get up for the big games. Well, if you're Oregon, something seems to suggest to me, and maybe it's a Bo Nix thing, and maybe when Bo Nix leaves, it's different because obviously he did not play very well in this game, right? But there just seems to be a pattern where through most of your season, you look good, you look dominant at several different points, everyone's hyping you up, but when the big game comes, you just can't take care of business. And I think it was summed up in this game by how flat Oregon started. Everything's on the line and you come out and start like that. And you may say, Vince, what do you mean it dates back to last season? Well, I think back to November of 2022, where, not the exact same thing happened, but people kind of forget this now. Utah was not supposed to go to the Pac-12 championship. They were not supposed to play USC a second time. It was quote unquote supposed to be Oregon, right? Because you look at their November schedule from last year, they lose to Washington in the second week of November, which, again, you want to draw more comparisons to USC and Utah. Washington has your number in the same way Utah seems to have Lincoln Riley's number, right? But okay, lose to Washington, one loss in a Pac-12, you're still going fine. And then check this out, right? Second to last week of the season, and again, people forget this now, Oregon actually beat Utah. So they were in the driver's seat to go to the Pac-12 championship. And so then it comes down to one game left. Okay, last year, the Civil War. Again, one game away from the Pac-12 championship. Now it's on the line. Now it actually counts. Oregon, you look good most of the year, besides this Washington loss. I mean, take a look. They were blowing out, especially later in the year. Basically blew out most of their competition here, and then they beat Utah. And then one more game when it actually counts. And what did you do? I'm not saying Oregon State last year was a bad team at all, but many would agree, right? You kind of choked. You choked. You lost yet another big game where everything was on the line and you were the quote unquote better team. And then in the end, you did not make the Pac-12 championship last year. So again, it's only year 2 for Oregon. So I'm not here to say, this will be the trend forever. But if you are an Oregon fan, you have to be questioning a little bit. It's like, why does our team under Dan Lanning manage to take care of business, right? They don't really get upset by your unranked random teams every week. But when everything counts and everything matters, like tonight, you're just flat, right? There's just something missing. You just don't play the way you feel like your team should be playing. I don't know. And again, that's not an indictment as Dan Lanning as an entire coach. I'm just saying, let's hope that doesn't become a pattern where you're choke Lanning. Because again, all the credit goes to Washington, obviously. But speaking from the perspective of an Oregon Duck, you would have to look at this and say, this cannot keep happening, right? It just cannot keep happening. But with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on this game down below. Again, sorry, Washington. I doubted you again. Heck, I'm probably going to doubt you. I'm going to say right now, I'm probably going to doubt you in the playoff. So, prove me wrong, right? Go win it all. Because every time I doubt Washington, what do? This is what happens. So, but with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts down below on this great game. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe again if you are new to the brand new college football channel. And until next time, see you later. What's the Huskies? Is it just go Huskies? Go Huskies. Congratulations. And God bless and peace.